All right, it looks like we're ready to get started. Good to see so many folks tuning in to learn more about Jira Service Desk today. Well, my name is Paul Buffington. I'm your tour guide today for today's webinar. I'll be in the next 60 minutes covering the features that I think you'll find helpful to learn more about as you are maybe starting your evaluation, and you've come to the right place today to kind of help you down that path. Let me take care of a little bit of logistics here and just talk about a couple of things. Also on the call today, we have project experts, and they'll be helping us answer questions to maximize the time we have. So I encourage you, if a question comes up, to go ahead and post that into the Q&A, and they'll be able to answer that as we go through the demo. And if time allows at the end, we'll definitely take any remaining questions. We have some great resources that you can access from here. So the Getting Started Guide, frequently asked questions, and just the documentation for Jira Service Desk. So take a look at those as well. And I also want to remind you, if you have not started an evaluation of Service Desk, you've also come to a great place to start that. And that is when we get to the end, or you can even click into that now and as you're listening to this and watching. But it takes you to the page where you can go ahead and sign up and start using it for free and take a look, take it out for a test drive, as I say. So let's look at some use cases, and then I'm going to get right into the environment and walk you through them. So Jira Service Desk is built on the power of Jira, and it's built around the needs of IT and service teams so they can be much more efficient in the way that they deliver service. They can streamline the service, be much more proactive, and surface up the capability that they want to their customers. And so we're going to be talking a lot about that. I mean, you may use the terms of incident, problem, and change and service request in your current service desk today that your team uses, or you might use slightly different processes. Jira Service Desk is ITIL certified by Pink Verify. So we give you that head start if you're headed down the ITIL path, or if you have a different completely approach in your structure. The great thing of Service Desk is very adaptable to the needs of your team, whether you're a small IT team all the way out to large enterprises using it. Now, what I've done is just to kind of give us some context of what we'll cover. I have a couple of use cases. So what are the use cases we'll focus on? We're going to begin with the end user and talk about when they access the customer portal. We're going to see how it is super simple for them to ask for help. It's driven by search because that's how most of the time in today's consumerized technology today we use a lot of technology that is driven by search, and Service Desk is that way. Why? Because it's probably one of the most efficient ways to deliver service. I'm going to search for what I want, and then I'm going to land where I can make that request. And another part of this really important is not only making it easy for them to ask for help, but to give them answers along the way. So we're going to see how the Confluence knowledge is fully integrated, making it very easy for customers to interact and find what they want or ask for help. The other use case is once the request is created, we're going to look at how IT support agents deliver support. And for them, because they're so busy, they have so much going on, it's about making it much more efficient and getting work done in a very smart way. So we'll see how the SLAs and the dynamic proactive queues sort things out to where everything that's most important is top of mind. And then the other part of this is all about connected teams. How can we collaborate to get things done faster and share data without having to work in different silos, and so we can bring these teams together? And so these are two key aspects that we'll see in the IT support agent section. We'll also look at the managers that are overseeing the process. How do they track their metrics, that matter most to their teams? And then if they have teams working in different IT projects, service management projects within Jira Service Desk, how do they gain visibility across those support teams? We'll look at that as well. And then finally, to close out, we're going to look at administrators, and we're going to see how they actually set up and configure Service Desk with key insights that we'll talk about some of the key capability that you need to understand. And then if I needed to create a new Service Desk, if time allows, I will go ahead and show you how you can quickly create a new Service Desk project and set a team up so they're ready to go. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the demo. All right, so we'll begin with the end user first here in the customer portal. And what I want to begin with what we call Help Center. It's driven by search, as I said in the intro, that we want to make it so simple for someone to search for and find either the requests they need to create or the answers. And so what this is doing actually is bringing together multiple service desk projects with different teams working in them. So we have the IT service desk, we have operations team, purchasing, and all of these different projects that are brought together based on permissions. So permissions do drive this, of which projects I can see. But it's the idea that here I want to come in and I want to search for, I'm having a connectivity issue from home. And what it's going to do here is it's going to go out and find what's most prevalent about this. What's going on for Jennifer is that she's connecting from home with her VPN and she's seeing really slow connection speed. So she's looking through here and she's seeing a little bit of what she wants, but let's just let's put in VPN and see what else it comes back. So it looks like, oh, here we go, VPN access troubleshooting for employees. Let's take a look at this. So now what it's done is it's pulled up the knowledge article for her to go through and review, and she can start reading through it. And what she finds here, she's reading is really nicely formatted and great, but this isn't solving my problem. So I could indicate yes or no. This is not solving my problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and go back to the results, and I'm going to look, and I'm not really seeing anything here. There's troubleshooting for Mac. I really don't have time. I've got a busy day. I'm just going to submit a request, but at least I'm seeing the knowledge there. So I'm just going to go ahead and go here because here's for setup for VPN. It's already set up. So let's just go and ask for help. And what you're going to see in the form here, we make it very simple, and it's up to the admin to choose which questions we want to ask them and in a language that's appropriate for them. But it's simple for them to go ahead and fill this out. So let's just go ahead and put in here, and I'll slow VPN connection from home. Now you're noticing it's also recommending other knowledge articles. And again, this is placing knowledge to where we can deflect that request and save time, not only for the end user, but also for the support staff. But I'm not seeing it, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in here, and I've actually pre-typed all of this out for me to save me a little bit of time. And so let me copy this in, and here we go. Okay, so I'm going to submit the request, and off it goes. Now, this is what starts the conversation with support. That's the other great thing of the way that this is set up, is it makes it communicative and collaborative in the way that we can communicate with support. So I know the issue is created. I can go ahead and say, forgot to tell you I'm using a Windows PC. That might be the issue. So, all right, so I've added additional comments. And if we see in a few minutes when we look at the support side, I could add some comments back to them, and we can have this ongoing conversation here that makes it very easy. And if end users are used to email, which Jira Service Desk fully supports, this actually starts to drive them towards the portal to where they find fast, efficient, easy way of finding answers or asking for help. Now, something else has happened in this day that Jennifer just found out that her manager approved for her to go ahead and get a new Mac. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and go back here, and I want to say new Mac. And what's going on here is it's going through and finding out, again, knowledge, or it's going to go ahead and find their appropriate request. So I'm seeing none of these. Now, one thing that Jira Service Desk does is it actually uses Smart Graph to register what is it that they're ultimately selecting. So from this point on, I know that she searched for that, but she's going to choose new Mac, and we're going to go ahead and request the new hardware. Now, something here, which this is the reason I'm showing this, is we have approvals that are going to be used here. We're not exposing the approval because we're routing to a very specific individual to do the approval. So we'll go ahead and say new MacBook Pro. Now, I could actually surface the field and allow her to select her manager, but in this case, just to save time, we're just going to route to the person in purchasing that's going to handle this, and then they can comment in and ask their manager saying, hey, do you approve this? And we're able to actually handle it from that perspective. So you have actually both options. And I could drag in the system requirements. Maybe I went out to Apple's website and I looked at what I need for the specs. We submitted it. Now you're going to notice it's actually waiting approval. Now, so I'm going to go ahead and do the approval here. So I'll show you how that actually works. So it's waiting approval from Chris Davis. So let's go over to Chris's screen and take a look at that. So here's Chris. He's on the service desk here. He is an agent, so he would get a notification. He can approve it from two different locations. He actually approve it from the request in the agent view in the console, or from the you click on the email and it would take him to this view right here. So it's showing him all of his approvals that are awaiting. I can go ahead and select this one, review the requirements, everything, all the details. I probably more likely would ask for more information from Jennifer, just to streamline this for the purpose of today's demo. Looks great. Enjoy the new Mac. Fantastic. And we'll add that and we'll approve it. Her request has now been approved, and if we go back over and we look at my requests, it's now waiting on support. So now that's into the support agent's hands, and they'll go through the whole process of provisioning that and getting that out to Jennifer. Now, one last thing I want to go ahead and show you, and that is from the service desk. Oh, by the way, when I go to choose Mac this time and search, guess what? Request new hardware, because they know that's what I searched for last time. This is where the machine learning becomes very powerful over time. It becomes smarter and more, it provides better recommendations. And there's a great blog that the Atlassian team has actually written about that under Jira Service Desk if you want to learn more about that capability. So I just got the new Mac. Jennifer has a new Mac. She's newer to Mac. It's, Windows to Mac can be a bit of a transition. So she wants to know how to set up my email. So she's gotten used to the Help Center providing some answers, or at least ask for help. I could go right here. So we'll just say Mac email setup, and boom, right there. Configuring the Mac email client. It's one that the team has published out. So she's able to start reading through this step-by-step guide, great pictures, easy, and it's based on obviously your standards and that. So this right here answers her questions. She's going to go ahead and indicate, yep, great, I have this article. I'm able to set up my email. I'm up and running, and I'm a very happy customer support. So that's, in a very brief overview, that's how simple we make it for users and customers of IT to ask for help and find answers. Now, we're going to shift hats, and let's move over to be an agent. We'll go ahead and log in as an agent. So now I'm going to log in as Alana Grant, and I'm going to go in as an agent, and let me switch over to here. So now I'm in her view of things. So Alana works on the service desk team as a part of IT, both frontline and backline. So it's a smaller team. So they're filling multiple roles. And I just want to kind of walk you through what she sees and how service desk from an agent view really keeps them on top of what's most important. First of all, on the left-hand side are the queues. And we're going to walk through queues, but kind of let me give you a little tour here. Customers allows me to find someone that I support, find their record, and kind of see what's going on with them. So it gives me more detailed perspective around that customer. Reports we'll cover in a few minutes from manager perspective, just a quick snapshot. The technicians, the support staff get access as well. This kind of help me understand where we at with knowledge that we're delivering, our SLAs, or any custom reports we have. The other thing that's really helpful is to raise a request. Let's say someone walked up to me and they just asked me for, it was Jennifer again, need a second monitor. So I could quickly submit this request, or maybe they called me over the phone. And so I've now submitted a request on behalf of Jennifer. It goes out into her, it's her request. She'll get all of the updates. It's in her list of requests. So it's a great way of what I call doing on behalf of for other individuals. You can also send them the email. Customer channels is where I can take the portal URL and place somewhere, or I need to give someone the email address so they can submit tickets to the service desk. Last two things I want to mention, these are configured by the admin. You have this whole area on the projects on the sidebar over here that you can include valuable links for the team that's working inside of this project. What we've done in this case is we've provided the IT Knowledge Central. This is a Confluence page. So let's just click over there real quick. So as a support agent, I can come in and find support answers that maybe aren't available to everyone else. So it's an easy way that I've embedded Confluence or my support processes. Maybe I'm following, whoops, I moved the URL. Maybe I have specific support processes, whether they're ITIL or just more traditional IT service management processes. Whatever your process is, you're able to go ahead and embed those right there where the team has them. So these are really valuable links that you can place over here that they can get to in a single click. They can be inside of the Atlassian product space, or it can be external as well. Now let's go back to queues. Queues are really important in is they're allowing me to organize the work as a team and make us more effective in the way that we want to see this data. And so we have queues. These are set up. It's basically running a Jira, the JQL search behind the scenes, and it's bringing up the requests. So here's all of the currently unassigned ones, or what service requests are out there right now that I should be focusing on. So it's quickly allowing me to find those requests. And then everything that is most important is sorted to the top. So we don't have anything that's exceeding an SLA yet. We might see some of those in a little while here. But what we have in this case is this is the one that's coming up. There's an issue with a shopping cart, and I need to pay attention to that. But the one I needed to work on right now is actually the VPN request, because Jennifer just sent me a HipChat message about it and is asking, hey, can you help me out? Because I really got a tough deadline here. So first of all, I see the request now. I can kind of walk through it. I can see the details. Someone moved it up to a critical. I can look at the workflow, seeing where we're at. It's telling me I haven't responded to her, so it's waiting for support. Who requested it? What are the SLAs attached? So we attached 2 SLAs that we just provided sample ones out of the box. You choose what SLAs you want to track for your support teams. Very easy to set up. We'll see in a few minutes. So first of all, first time to response is attached. So I have 4 hours to do that. And I have 24 hours for resolving a service request. The clock is counting down, so it's keeping me honest about that. And they will start to change color, and they'll bring my attention to it. Plus, I'm going to get some notifications. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this request. So I've read through it. She's having slow connectivity issues with a VPN. And one thing you're going to notice below the attachments is knowledge. Knowledge is also really valuable and placed in line for the agents to use, because we want to solve these requests as fast as possible. And so here you're going to notice we're picking up the most prevalent ones that are recommended for this issue. And I'm also seeing here, VPN access for employee troubleshooting, AnyConnect, and the Wi-Fi. So let's look at here. Let's go ahead and do a search, VPN. And I'm thinking that she probably needs to update her client. That's probably what it is. And so we could open this one up, and this looks like this may solve it. Now I know it was a Windows system, but we'll just go ahead and put this in here. So this shows how to reinstall or update it. So we'll share this as a comment. And this is the great thing, is that I can quickly place this in there, and I'll just say, hey, Jen. All right, comment goes out, share with customer. She just got an update in an email, as well as it's there in the portal. She'll be able to click in this knowledge article. And if we were to carry this request forward, we would actually see that this solves her issue, and we'd be able to go ahead and then resolve it. So this is a great example of how knowledge on this agent side is helping us quickly solve and address issues. And these knowledge articles can be external, or they might have a little red mark here indicating this is locked. This is only for internal teams to see. So you have full configuration of that. All right, so let's go back out here, and I want to do one other request, and I'm seeing this a lot. I'm getting a lot of requests. Actually, Jennifer asked about this. I need help with sharing my Google Calendar with the engineering team. So let's just go ahead and do this. And I could share a link with her and say, here you go ahead and do this. And so check out this link. And I'd paste the link in here. Maybe it's in my favorites. I go and grab it all the time. And I'm just doing this so much. What I want to do is really publish this as a knowledge article. So I'm going to go ahead and share it with her, because it's going to solve this. I'm going to mark this, resolve this issue. Oops. All right, so we'll indicate that we've so we shared it. Now, I want to turn this into a knowledge base article, because then I can deflect these requests in the future and make it easier for end users just to immediately find what they're looking for. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and take and create a knowledge article. I'm going to change the title of this, Share Google Calendar with your team. All right, and it also has a template, how to. We'll go ahead and create it. So now it brings me into the template. Now what I'm going to do is I actually have this. If I go over here, copy it. Now probably in the real world example, I'm just using this as an just to show you how this works. I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in. Now you're probably going to link out to what Google has on their website, so that way you're getting the most current. But there might be a variation in instructions, the way that Google does it and the way that you want your end users to follow. But what I wanted to show you is just I've placed this in here. I could do all the formatting. And the other thing here is it's going to link to the original issue. So from a support side, it really helps me measure the usage of the article, understand where it was generated from, maybe for its life cycle and managing it. So I'll save it. And then we're going to do one last thing, and that is just make sure that I put in here Google Calendar. There we go. And just type in here Google. All right. Now, what does it look like from an end user perspective? Let's go back over here to this view. And we'll go to the portal. And we'll say Share Google Calendar with Team is now live and available. So anyone that's searching for this is going to find this knowledge article and hopefully help them solve the challenge that they're having. Okay. So that was a very quick example, but I wanted you to see how easy it is to publish knowledge from your service desk directly from an issue. As we get ready to move on to the next section, I just want to remind everyone to post your questions in chat. I'm seeing some great questions that the team is answering as we're going along. So continue to ask your questions and they'll answer them as we move along. And as we get time, we'll try and get to a Q&A. I don't want to share as many insights as possible before we wrap up. So let's continue on. Okay, for the time that we have remaining, we have time really for one more example with the IT support team before we move on. And that's around how to respond to a major incident with the connected teams. It was one of the use cases I wanted to kind of cover. So we just had a major outage occur. We've received some events that were coming in from monitoring tools, may come from email. The API for Jira Service Desk, the REST API is open, so you can easily set up these types of integrations and start receiving that information. So I'm seeing that the database online storage, I got an alert and it's telling me that the health is not good. This occurred 20 times in the last 30 minutes. So it looks like there's something going on with the database. And I also noticed the original request coming in from Sandeep. He's mentioning that the web store is offline and customers can't access it. So it's pretty critical outage. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and jump on this one because this is my area of expertise. I'm going to go ahead also and link those other issues to it real quickly here. And that's the power of Jira, because this is all on one platform, whether they're Jira issues, incidents inside of Jira Service Desk, or they're the backlog with the software teams doing in Jira software. I have full visibility across all of that based on permissions, of course, but I can link these together. So if I want to bring these two, and I just want to bring the event, and so I can search for it, and it'll be the ones that are most recent. It looks like, yeah, here they are right here. 46, and looks like this one right here. So I've been putting a lot of sample data through here. So we'll just go ahead and link those for the purpose of our example. And all right, so we've linked them. Now, one thing we'll mention in a few minutes is we can use automation to keep these requests in sync. So if I basically resolve this or fix this issue, I can actually update those other instances with comments, or I can move their status forward. And you'll see this in automation in just a few minutes. So now the next thing I've got to have Chris come in here. So I need Chris. He's actually the admin. So need your help with this issue. Now, what I'm going to do here is Chris came in, he got the notification on this, and from his perspective, he can go into this request and he can open this up, and we can start actually working together in the same request. So I can say, looking at the log files now. And we can capture all of this in a way that we're working together around one request. Becomes much more collaborative in the way that we approach this. However, that's one step. HipChat is fully integrated with Jira Service Desk. So I already see that there's one mention of it out in another room. But what I want to do, because this is a major outage, I'm going to have to bring in 5 or 6 people potentially to help with this issue. I'm going to go ahead and create the room. This will be a dedicated HipChat room just for this. I'm going to bring Chris, and Chris has already mentioned, but I also want to bring in Max, and we've brought them in. So now they are invited. They will receive invites or notifications in their HipChat client. They will then go ahead and join that room. So let's just jump into that room. And now they're in the room as well. So it looks like Chris is online. I can say, Chris, and we can go on and on with the conversation that we would have. He just actually got a ping from there because he's logged in. And the other thing I want to show you is, let's say I've mentioned something here, but let's say I'm out in IT support, and I can say, at all, did the DB team make any changes last night? Because I'm not seeing a change request for it. And I can also mention the ticket, 187, which I already did previously. And so what's this going to do? It's going to do 2 things, and I misspelled it, so let's fix that. So we'll go SD 187. I just got to get the ticket name right. And what this does is it gives them awareness of what is that ticket. So they can look at it, was it critical? They can actually go into it, and they can come over to the other room. Now, the reason why I did this, I want you to see that back over here, if we were to go ahead and refresh this one or reopen, we will see that there are multiple mentions of it. And we will see here the mentions of that. So if I've been away from the ticket for a little while, I want to come back in and see what's being worked on. This is a quick way for me to be able to see what mentions are going on and who's working on it. Also, we have, all the conversation going on in here. So this is just a really quick example. There's quite a bit more that we could talk about, but for sake of time, I have to move on. But I wanted you to understand that Jira Service Desk brings teams together in a collaborative way around chat ops that other solutions just don't offer. The being able to share information and get those insights in real time between the teams, I think is so super critical, whether it's a major incident outage or if you're planning a change request and I need to go through and bring multiple people together to help in the planning and the approval of the change. One thing that I'm seeing a lot with customers is the approvals are here for the change, but now I want to bring someone in to help out in the planning. I can just mention them, hey, can you review these plans or can you add your plans? This is streamlining IT support in a way that it has been difficult to do in previous solutions. So take a look at these examples and give them a try. Now let's move on to the next example. Okay, so we're going to spend just a second on the manager aspect of this, because managers, when they looking at the service desk, how they're doing, how they're performing, they need a good big picture visibility of it. And so we have some great real-time reports. First of all, the workload. How are folks doing? We've got some issues that are obviously exceeding their SLA they've breached. So Lana's having a rough day, same with Chris. So this is an example, a quick snapshot. You can find a specific agent. Another important one is how we're doing in the 7-day rolling period for our SLAs, and obviously they're not that great for the sample data I've included. And so you're getting an idea on the SLAs you've put in place for this project and the different type of criteria, because obviously time to resolution has different ones for incident service requests. We understand that. The other thing is satisfaction. Part of when you send out, when a service request closes, we send a satisfaction survey that can be configured. It's a real simple survey, but I think it's an important one. You just simply ask them, how do we do in a star rating, and give us a comment. And so this allows us to kind of keep that pulse of what's the satisfaction with the support we're getting and be able to go back and review these. We also look at the usage of knowledge articles for their effectiveness. And so you can see which ones are actually being used versus how many requests are being created. And then I'll just jump down here of SLA met versus breach. There's several of them. You can actually create your own custom reports. And we just won't have time for today to go through that, but it's very flexible in being able to craft reports around what the leadership, the management team, the team leads need. The other part I think it's really important is being able to look at dashboards. And I just want to remind you, this is more of a core capability from Jira, but I have the ability to create dashboards that would bring together different IT projects and give me visibility across those teams. So what are the most important issues out there? How are we performing overall? And there's different ways that you can chart this out. Or even like a change calendar, currently what's scheduled in this window, and I understand that. So I just want to remind, a lot of you probably are very familiar with Jira dashboards, but it's just a matter of consuming the data from your Service Desk projects. So that's a manager view of it. It's just very, very brief. It's really more all about the reports. Keep asking your questions. I've seen a couple of questions come in around reporting. Keep asking those, and the team will continue to answer your questions. And I just want to press on towards configuration. Now let's look at what it takes to administer the project. Now this very well could be your Jira admin, or the Jira admin may designate someone within the IT team to do this. First of all, the summary just gives you a quick overview of how this project is configured, how it's being used, what type of workflows. I'm not going to be able to cover everything for sake of time in this, but I do want to highlight a couple of key things that I think you need to understand, especially if you're going through the evaluation right now that you want to set up, configure, and test out. And I'm going to move down to request types. So you think about your customer portal, that is your request catalog. Request types are what we use to define those items within the catalog. And you can see here, as you know, the get help one that we were using, and commonly throughout the list here, you can see the different ones, how they're grouped, a description of them. So let me walk you through an example. So we don't have one right now for mobile requests. So let's go ahead and go in and set one up for requesting a mobile device. Yeah, there it is. It looks like someone had started to put it in there. That works. We'll put this under common requests, and we'll add it. So now it's in there. Let's go ahead and change the icon real quick to it. Let's make it a mobile phone. And now we need to change what fields will we include. Now by default, it just includes summary, but we know that's not everything we need. So we can go ahead and go through and say, all right, I need the description. I need to have possibly an attachment. I'm going to put label in, and I'll explain why. And then finally approvers and due date. So these are basically all the fields that we currently are tracking on our Jira Service Desk form. If you've added your own custom fields, those would be available for you to add as well. So here I'm going to put in phone requirements. Maybe there's something that they have to attach. This I'm going to make hidden. So we're going to hide this, because maybe we have some special routing that we want to do, or you have a certain queue you want to sort it into. We can go ahead and do that. So now we have a hidden label field, and we're going to go ahead and place it there. And then the last thing, let's say I want to have approvers and phone requirements at the bottom, and we would see manager, and we'll do that. And we will make this required. So you're seeing how we can put this in language that makes the most sense to the end user. In a matter of just a couple of, less than a couple of, maybe a minute or two here, we now have a service request ready to go. So let's go ahead and go back out to our portal. We'll go ahead and type phone. There it is, all ready to request it, including the person I would be having as my approver. And so there's different ways, obviously, you can configure that, whether it be hidden or visible. But what I wanted to show you here is how easy it is to go ahead and set up and configure a request offering for the portal that your users can now interact with. And I would say probably 80 to 90% of them, if they're very simple, some fields to start the conversation that carry forward. But it also can support some of the more complex use cases as well. Let's move on to the next one, and that is a couple of things I'll highlight. Satisfaction setting, you can turn on the satisfaction survey, and then you can ask them a question. That's where they'll ask them the question and they get the star rating. Email requests. We have the ability to take inbound email requests as the default here. You can add your own custom email address request. And then if it's going to come inbound, it's going to use a request type, and we default to the get IT help. You could obviously change that to something else. Knowledge base. We have the ability to point to a very specific knowledge base. If Confluence is installed and configured and set up and you're ready to use it, you can then come in and choose which Confluence instance and then which space. And then you can also go through, so for VPN, we are looking for only those knowledge articles that carry that label. So again, this is another way that we can refine what is being delivered to the end user. SLAs. Very simple and easy to set up. It's simply, and we have two that we provide as a starting point for you. First time to response, first time to resolution. Let me go to resolution because it'll have some variation. So when should it start? Do I pause? And if you have something in your workflows that maybe there's a pending that you've added to your workflows, you can pause on that. And then when should it stop? And then are there different goals? So for an incident that's critical, it's 2 hours versus all remaining or 40 service requests is 24 hours. So you have, the full latitude of the way you would set this up. You're basically putting in a JQL search to find the appropriate requests and attach them. So very easy for you to set up. You do have different calendars that you can go ahead and designate and configure to be used with your, and we've provided you a sample one, but you could come in and define your own calendar. Are you a 9 to 5? Are you 24? Are you different time zones? So we make it very easy to set up there. Now I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is very powerful within Jira Service Desk, and that is automation. There are a lot of repetitive tasks that your support team does. And this is one area that as a team starts to use Jira Service Desk, they're going to find a lot of value in. And that is that, okay, this task we commonly do over and over, I want to create an automation rule around it. I'm just going to try and add a new rule. I'll give you an idea of which ones we actually just give you a kind of a preset template. You want to transition an issue on a comment, or you want to reopen on customer comment. So when let's say I've marked it as completed, but they come back and add a comment, service request saying, no, it's still an issue. I want to reopen that request so that way the agent knows about it and they can go ahead and continue to work on that request. Urgent issues, SLAs, update. Remember I mentioned one I mentioned about linked issues. You can link them as they change. Triage requests sent via email so we can look for keywords. And then finally, your own custom rule. Now I'm just going to open up one that I have here, transition on comment, and I just kind of show you an example of one. This is a pretty good example where, okay, so when a comment is made and added to an issue, and if it matches, and now there's multiple branches here, and you can have quite a few different branches. So it's waiting for customer and customer request, and it's the type is not empty, and the comment is public. It's going to go ahead and transition issue, respond to customer. But here, if it's waiting for customer and it's not empty, I'm going to respond to support. So it's kind of have this branch in here. You can have the else. So the great thing of this, there's no scripting, there's no programming involved. It's simply going through and configuring this and setting it up and saving it, and you now have that automation rule live. Lots of IT teams are starting to use this and love this capability because they're finding it's starting to streamline their support processes. Now, when I created this project, I went with the default issue types. I followed the ones that are more traditional to IT service management, kind of along an ITIL standpoint. But it allows me then to align in a way that match my support processes. Obviously, the power of Jira, you can change your workflows to match your processes. So you can use these as a starting point, or you can simply replace them with your own workflows. So you can have the ability to go through and change and modify your workflows. You also can choose around fields and screens. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details here. I recommend, just for sake of time, there's just not as much time to cover all of these. Take a look at the documentation because it walks you through every aspect of this. I want to move down to users and roles. So how do I determine who has access to this project, who's going to work in it? And you'll see now the administrator is Chris. service desk collaborators, we allow Rich, obviously, he maybe works in engineering and that, so I'm going to allow him to have visibility and look at the data, but he's not actually going to transition and work the tickets. Those that are responsible for the support process will be the service desk team. They are the ones that can go ahead and transition an issue through its life cycle within the service desk. We have the other items in here, around the HipChat, notifications, issue security. And so there's remaining items here that I highly recommend taking a look at the product documentation. Okay, so let's move to our final scenario, what we want to talk about, and that is, how can I create a new service desk project? Let me kind of give you some examples. Right now, we've been working out of primarily one project to provide support and handles all of the different types of requests we have coming in. And so maybe this, for example, we have facilities requests. They work very closely with IT with all the setups and moves, but we want to give them their own dedicated project. Or you have maybe a back-end IT support team that needs their own dedicated project. So for an example of that, we moved IT operations into their own project. So now they handle all of their own service requests, their change requests, and they're more focused on IT outages and changes in problem investigations. So that's a good example. And I think for the purpose of our example today, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a service desk project for our facilities team. So let's go through that scenario, talk about, maybe review a little bit of the setup, and just show how quickly you can have a brand new project ready to go, dedicated for a group of people. All right, so let's go here. We're going to choose Create New Project. And based on the products that are currently installed in your environment and licensed, you will see the different project types. We have Jira software, so we have all of those projects, Jira Service Desk, and then Jira Core is here as well. Now, let me explain in Jira Service Desk the two project types. We kind of have these templates pre-made. Basic Service Desk is for potentially, could be used for IT, and it has issue, it has purchase. It has some of these things that may be outside of IT. And then we also have IT Service Desk that has the IT service management focused workflows. The ITIL workflows are in there as well, and all of the fields and configuration. So you need to pick whichever one's appropriate. Since we're going to be doing this for the facilities team, let's just go with Basic Service Desk. There is the ability to create it with sample data. Actually, it's a great way to start off, especially if you're going through your evaluation right now, is to include sample data. I'm going to actually skip over that step. So we'll call this facilities. You can also choose to create the appropriate linked rooms. I don't need a Bamboo project for it. And we'll leave HipChat set up. So notice when I put in facilities, it created the key. This is the key that's added as the identifier at the beginning of the request ID. So that'll work for us. Okay, so now we're in our project, and it's the first time we're viewing it. And you're seeing something here about, especially when you're onboarding new agents, new support staff that'll be working the project. One of the great things is the welcome guide. It's not only giving you guidance, but it's directing you to where the documentation is. And it's just kind of giving you a few items that I need to go through, create a request in the portal, view issues. And it's just kind of a checklist to help me get up and going quickly, as well as access to the doc. So I'll go ahead and what are the items that we need to start with as we configure the project? We'll just highlight a few of these that we'll go through, and then we'll add our members that would work in the project. First of all is the queues. You need to figure out what's the best sorting of requests that's going to make that team most effective. If facilities using this, obviously all open requests unassigned, but they may have some special request types that they want to sort these out by. Maybe it's office move versus telecom equipment or data center changes. And so there's probably some different sorting of these types of requests. You could add a new queue in here, and it's just simply coming in, giving it a name, picking the issues to show. You can select from the menu, or you can go ahead and create your own JQL statement. So either one works. And then what are going to be the headers across this queue when they look at the values? So that takes a little bit of planning, working with the team, and they have to fine tune it over time, but it's really easy and simple to set up the queues. The other thing is, what kind of links do you need to add? There might be some documents that they need reference to and find out, and that's where the planning goes in. Initially creating the project, probably the easiest part is just getting those requirements. Now let's go over to the project side of things. I'll go ahead and skip out of this one, and let's go over the project settings and look at some items that we need to set up. Okay, so first of all, we start out really basic. I don't need a purchase request, and we're going to look at the request types. So we'll go ahead and remove this one. And then I want to change this one to be office move. Change the icon. Looks good for an office move. Very good. And then we'll just group these under general, but I could come in here and create new groupings. So, and all right, there we go. Now we'll go through and edit the fields. So for example, and we also could come in here and choose additional fields as you saw in the other one. This is again based on what we've actually configured for this project. So in this case here, maybe priority I might want to put in, and I'll put in labels and make that hidden. And when's the due date? That would be another good thing to ask. We could actually select approvers if we want that as well. So once the fields are in, just a matter of reorganizing them into the sequence. I said that this will be hidden, so we'll take and put that as hidden, and we'll do this, put in a label. And this is another good example where I would probably be sorting this or doing some sort of maybe workflow off of it, or I mean, not workflow. This is where I would be using the label to potentially sort which queue it would go into. This is used for assignment oftentimes. All right, so now let's go ahead and just put the due date up here, priority, and then who's the approver, and we'll say manager. Okay, so you get the idea on how to create a request type. We'll just go back out to the main area. So now we have office move. We could go ahead and reconfigure this one. So we have two of them in there. And update. All right. So again, the portal here, just to look at this real quick. There's the two items. And then we have different groupings in that, and this would grow over time. But that's how simple it is to create the project, get your request type set up. The other items you want to look at and review is what knowledge base would you connect it to? So are we going to connect this to a knowledge base? Probably. There may be answers of, ergonomic adjustments, IT equipment configuration, what is authorized, policy standards that I want to make available to the customers I support for the facility teams outside of IT. SLAs, they more than likely have SLAs that they have to follow. We just give them a couple sample ones to start with. Time to resolution, they can reconfigure that. They can add their own. Any automation rules, maybe comments, transitioning of tickets, those types of things. And then the other area that I think you have to spend a little bit of time thinking about here is, are these issue types sufficient for what this team needs to do? So maybe IT help is in this is on the Jira side of things. We need to probably go through and define what are the issue types that are appropriate here, what are the workflows that I need to define and use. Okay, so you can use what's here as a starting point, or you can reconfigure it. That's again the flexibility of Jira as being the platform which Jira Service Desk is built on. But at the end of the day here, we have a full project ready to roll. I can come in and just start inviting my team members. And so I'm going to go ahead and invite Sandeep in, and that invite just went out, and Sandeep is now been invited out as a member to work in facilities. We make it very simple and easy to get the project up and going. And again, the documentation, always a great place to go through and take a look. If you are, again, doing the eval, or you're getting ready to start one of the evals after today's demo, highly recommend to create multiple projects, and that way you can see how you set it up, configure it, and also how you share data or link data between them as well. So let's transition over here to wrap up the webinar. All right, to summarize what we've talked about in this webinar, I just want to go through and just review a few things. We've covered a couple different use cases that'll hopefully give you a good overview of Jira Service Desk and its capability. And one was around the customer portal, making it easy for end users, for what we call customers, those that we support, to ask for help by simply filling out a form, starting the conversation, and carrying the request forward and getting that information to support through the portal. And it's all driven by search that either points them to the request they need to complete or the knowledge. And being able to put knowledge in line with that is just actually deferring requests, giving them answers right away and saving time for support. So that was the first one. The second one is just all about making IT more effective in the way they deliver support, streamlining their ticket management from the dynamic queues, having whatever's most important top of the queue, or the connected teams to the collaboration, the SLAs, the automation to streamline some of those repetitive tasks. You saw a lot of different features, and I'd encourage you just to actually, if there's one that really stood out to you, to go ahead and take a look and dig further into that. And then finally went through the configuration. And while there's so much information there and it's very powerful in what it can do, hopefully you saw it's very straightforward. We try and make it easy for an admin to go through each category, set it up, and be able to deploy their service desk by creating an IT project for one team or maybe across multiple teams. So with that, we're going to go ahead and transfer to the Q&A. I've seen a lot of really good questions coming across, and I know the product experts, they've been really busy answering your questions. And so we'll go ahead and continue to do that. And I'll take a couple of questions here as we've seen a few of these come up. One person just asked about, what about broadcasts? Is it possible to let users know about maybe a certain condition? And one of the items I didn't show you in the notification section, I believe it's under your configuration, is you have the ability by project now to go in and set up a broadcast. So let's say there's a service outage, or there's just a known condition that you want to make all of your users aware that as they visit it. And so it ends up as a banner across the top, a little microphone there, and it's telling them this is really important. You can also include links. Maybe it's linking out to something else. So great question. I didn't get time to actually show that. So go ahead and keep sending your questions in here. We'll probably stay on for a few more minutes during this session as well as we wrap up. That allows the team to finish up answering some of those questions. And also just encourage you again to access the resources that we've placed in the webinar here, the 3 items there. All of those are great starting points. And just remind you again, if you haven't started an evaluation, click on the, try it for free. It sets you up for an evaluation to where you can create your environment and you're off and running very quickly. As I said, taking it out for a test drive. The other thing I just want to mention, I mentioned this probably during the sessions, and that is around the ability. Oh, you're looking for information. I talked about a couple of key features. Another great place to go and learn is go to the Atlassian blogs and take a look at some of the service desk blogs. There are some great insights. The new approvals capability that I was able to highlight and show today, as well as the smart search, this smart graph for searching and machine learning that's built into the product. There's a couple of them. There's many others out there as well. So let's see what other questions are coming in here. Great. Oh, here's a good question. So is a license required for an end user customer to use the portal and knowledge? And the answer is no. It's free for them to use. They can come in. Obviously, they can be a user that they log in and authenticate. But once they're there, they can submit requests. They can make comments on a request, and they can actually view knowledge articles without having a service desk or Confluence license assigned to them. On the agent side, in order to work inside of Jira Service Desk projects, to work, to move a request forward and transition it through the workflow, you have to have a Jira Service Desk agent license. In order for them to author knowledge, I mean, that means that Confluence is set up and added, you have to give them a license to Confluence as well, so then they can go in and author knowledge and create documents in there. And it's also, Confluence is a great resource. A lot of IT teams use it today because they can put a lot of their planning and documents that they want to track in something that's much more collaborative. So let's see, I'll let a couple more questions come in here. And if you have any more questions, so if you have to actually leave us now, I just want to go ahead and get this email address up here. This is a great email address to go ahead and send to our experts team. It goes right into their queue. They see your questions and they can quickly and easily follow up with you directly on those. So if you have anything at all, don't hesitate, just make note of that email address and you can contact them and they'll answer your question. So hopefully today's session was really helpful. We really appreciate everyone taking time out of their busy schedules to just spend an hour with us to learn more about Jira Service Desk. We'll go ahead and leave the session open for a few minutes here to the top of the hour as we close out, as they're finishing answering some remaining questions. But we want to thank you and hope you have a great week. Thanks.